Hey guys, it's Brian at Brian's Aquatics. As you know, if you're watching the channel, you know it's me. Anyhow, I was just sitting here thinking, I was watching YouTube, as I often do. I seem to be a bit of a YouTube junkie, not just with fish stuff, but all kinds of stuff in general. But I usually start thinking about fish stuff because I'm either in my office or occasionally in the gallery, which I'll have a video out soon for. I got a couple things going on in there. It's kind of a wreck, but we're getting there. And I should have a video out hopefully in the next couple weeks on that. But I was thinking about when you start in the hobby, you know, and you get online. I know when I first started in the hobby, there wasn't an online. It was mostly books. But when I finally got serious in the hobby a few years back, and it kind of took off and grew on me, and I ended up with a bunch of tanks. There were things I learned along the way that I kind of wanted to share with everybody. This might lean more towards newer people in the hobby, people who are just getting into fish keeping, things like that. But it's, you know, what do you want to get out of your hobby is what it comes down to. And where to start at the beginning. I know if you read on forums and even get on YouTube, depending on who you watch, there's always somebody saying that you have to do it a certain way, do certain things. And in some ways they're not wrong, but I found a majority of things that I read online, especially when you get into the more science-y aspect of it, have to do with breeding than just keeping fish. Remember, things that you should read should be guidelines, not a standard of what you need to do. And as you go through fish keeping and you learn, you know, what you want, it'll teach you different things. Other things you have to look at is like your water parameters aren't always the same out of your tap. What I have coming out of my tap isn't necessarily what's coming out on the other end of town in their tap, well, in the same city. You watch different YouTubers. Some have them really have hard water, some have really soft water. There's a few in between. I know my water's a little hard, not by much, but I don't do anything special to my water. I don't treat my water. And I've had great success with my tanks for several years now. Doing that. We kind of run, I don't want to say all natural tanks, but they're pretty close. I mean, we use meds. I don't let anybody, you know, suffer or anything like that, trying to make them healthy again. But most of the time, like when I have a sick fish, I just use salt. I have a tank I use separately, and I add salt in, not a bunch of salt, but about a tablespoon to every 5 gallons, 10 gallons, depending on the fish. That doesn't work with all fish. The fish that doesn't work with, we try medications, but I use them very sparingly. Other things you want to look at, you know, starting off, you know, experiment, find out what works, you know, see if you don't need to use chemicals. Another thing that you might want to try is, do you need a heater? You'll see a lot of people saying, well, you have to keep this fish at a certain temperature. Well, I think, at least with the fish I keep, and we have a few different species, you know, we've got pistos, we've got, you know, silver dollars, ballast sharks, endlers. Well, I mean, you look at what we have in the fish room, and in my office, there's a large variety there, but everybody stays at my house temperature, which is 75 degrees through the winter, and through the summer, if I need to, I'll use a heater, but we usually just keep our house at 75 degrees. I find that heaters are needed for most fish, not all fish, because some fish you have to keep at, you know, a higher temperature, like German blue rams, or just rams in general. They require a higher temperature. They come from a higher temperature. But for the most part, everything seems to thrive in my house very well with little, you know, without heat control. Now, I do have heaters in some of my tanks, and a majority of those heaters aren't on, but when they are on, it's because I'm trying to breed something. to get it up to a specific temperature. My Apistos, for example, when I want them to breed, I turn the heaters on, I get the water up warm, do a few other things, and normally I can get a good spawn in a couple days out of them, if not sooner. But for the most part, just for fish keeping, I don't use heaters in my tanks. I just keep them at 73 to 75 degrees. Like I said, there are some that require a warmer temperature, hands down, and some that require kind of a cooler temperature, but I have yet to, in my fish room, find one that needs that unless I'm breeding. And then when you start out fish keeping, you want to kind of experiment. Don't go out and buy the Cadillac of fishes for your first fish. Chances are that it may not be around very long. I would start out something hardy yet not expensive, whether it's guppies or your common PetSmart Tetra. I thought that's where we started. We started with PetSmart fish. We would go and look at fish at the aquarium stores, that might be a little pricier, but we started out with basic fish that we knew were hardy, but that way we had some leeway with what we were doing. And we lost a few fish in the beginning, but now that I know how my water works in my particular household, and how my fish are, and I look up their needs and desires so I can find parameters. Remember, when you look up a specific fish that you're wanting to do, there's some leeway there. I've not yet to see one that it has to be this pH, it has to be this temperature. You usually go specific like that when you're wanting to breed, but just to keep them, not so much. You use the ballpark. I know, like, for example, my convicts, when I want to get them to breed, I throw a heater in the tank and take it up to 78 degrees from the 74 it usually is at, and I'll have mating pairs that will start to breed. But I really just wanted to rant and tell you some of my thoughts. Remember, this hobby's supposed to be fun, and it's supposed to be experimenting, and and never mind the different aspects, whether it's keeping the fish, your favorite thing might be building stands and racks, it could be making a gallery, collecting artwork from the fish community, which we also do. It being the gallery, we're starting that. We have a few pieces, but not many, and I guess I'll show you those when we do the gallery. And may even do a separate video. It could be just making new friends in the fish community. You may only have one tank, it may be 10 gallons, and it may have 2 fish in it, but you enjoy the community and the camaraderie. I've had quite a few hobbies, still have a couple different hobbies, and I will say the fish community is probably the best community I've ever seen. You do have some people out there, like with any hobby or just in life in general, that kind of make it a little more complicated and frustrating than it needs to be. But I think all in all, if you're just keeping fish for enjoying fish, that should be a way it runs. All right, well, I'm going to sign off here, but I wanted to check in and share a thought. And I will talk to you again soon. Happy fish keeping, guys, and enjoy your day. All right, talk to you later. Bye.